Vladimir Putin has landed in India after 4 years, but this time it's not only about oil and defense deal, and also it's not about living in nostalgia. It's about rewriting and reshaping Indo-Russia bilateral relationship. As we know, the world is witnessing a new kickstart as far as the Russia-Ukraine ceasefire is concerned or the end of war is concerned, and India finds itself at the center of this global power shuffle. So this particular visit of President Putin will be able to help rewrite a new chapter as far as the Indo-Russia relationship is concerned, or it will be similar like other visits. Let us try to understand this in more detail. So first of all, to give you context of this particular topic, Ukraine peace efforts we have seen especially headed by Donald Trump and his administration intensifying in the past few weeks. We have recently seen the US peace mediators such as Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff landing in Moscow to make sure that this peace deal goes without any problem. Now, it is in this context Delhi is also trying to seek a reset in the ties because for long it has tried to maintain a delicate balance between the West and Russia, and this modernization of ties is something that is going to be the main subject matter as far as this particular visit is concerned. However, the current relations, we many time talk about Russia as being a time-tested friend of India, and also we call it as in ground. Basically, we talk about Russia as one of the best friends that India had right from the Soviet Union time. But the ground reality seems to be quite weaker. The reason is because most of the bilateral ties is largely handled by government-to-government basis, and largely it is driven by the state as such. That means most of the trade, most of the what we can call as the partnership that we enjoy with Russia is government-to-government partnership. The involvement of private sector is almost negligible, and this is something that is very contrasting if you compare India's ties with most of Western countries where large scale and massive public private participation is something that is observed. So basically, we can see that deficiency is clearly seen in the partnership, largely in the context of private sector participation, in the context of technological cooperation exchange, or even trade. Strategic imagination is basically saying us that Russia is no longer central to India. India has shifted to the West, at least from last couple of decades. This is a general trend we have observed. Now, why is the relationship between India and Russia feels stagnant? The reason simple is because if we talk about the situation before the Ukraine war, Russia was focused more on markets such as US, Europe and China. Even in the case of oil trade, most of its oil was flowing to Europe, and in terms of strategic partnership, it began to cultivate such kind of partnership with China as such. Even till it was member of G8, it enjoyed a good bonhomie with United States of America also. Now, as far as India is concerned, to some extent we can say the relationship is more driven by the personal leadership, and this is something we see both from Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's side as well as President Putin's side. The missing element, however, is clearly visible, and that is the lack of economic depth. Next generation cooperation, whether it is in the field of emerging AI technology, electric vehicles and all, it seems to be quite missing from the plate of Indo-Russia relationship. And thus, we need to have a massive shift as far as the engagement of the relationship is concerned. Because as per the expert, future of Indo-Russia relationship would not only or should not only revolve around defense deals such as the S-400, S-500 missile briefs, or aircraft deals such as the Su-57 nuclear reactors, or even discounted oil purchase that has tremendously increased in past couple of years. Earlier, even if you talk about Russian oil, only less than 1% of India's import basket was made up of Russian oil. It has increased since then to 35% as in Russian oil was available at discounted rate due to the Russia-Ukraine war, and we can say a kind of sanction that was imposed on the Russian oil. Now, durable partnership can only be built if it is evolving around not only on these narrow dimensions but also widely encompasses dimensions such as trade, technology as well as science cooperation. Now, before moving forward, I want to bring attention to the fact, like say as Academy, we are going to soon commence batches. The regular weekday batches are going to start on 15th of December. The weekend batches is for those students who are preparing for this examination with a full-time job or full-time studies will commence on 6th of December. In this particular program, we ensure comprehensive coverage of GS paper, one-to-one mentorship, doubt solving sessions, regular interaction with educators. We also believe that UPSC requires an integrated approach of preparation, and that is why daily mains and writing practice is something that we encourage the students to participate in so that they can go and write mains examination with confidence. Test series for prelims and mains also we have included in our program so that the students are aware about their strength, weaknesses, and based on that they can take a call on how to manage their preparation. Also, as UPSC focuses upon current affairs and static, we have included 360-degree coverage of current affairs. If you want to know more detail about this course programs and feature, you can download our Legacy as app. You can click the link on the description box of this particular video also. Now coming back to this particular topic, we talk about the economic gap that is clearly visible between Indo-Russia trade. For example, India exports goods and commodities of value just 5 US billion dollars, and that is half of what India exports to Bangladesh as such. Bangladesh export stand at $11 billion. At the same time, we talk about the potential. It has a immense potential, huge potential for increasing trade with Russia. The reason is because Russian economy is valued at somewhere about $2.5 trillion. Not only that, if the Ukraine ceasefire agreement and the basically we can say peace negotiation finally comes to a fruition, in that case, India will have opportunity to also engage itself in the post-war reconstruction in Ukraine, and this is something that also will provide India a way to manage both east and west. Now, Ukraine war and multi-alignment challenge is something that India has faced in last couple of years, especially after coming of Donald Trump. We have seen US has taken a lot of measures to ensure that Russia-India ties are diluted. And the best example of this is additional 25% of tariff that was imposed by Trump administration because India was buying discounted oil from Russia. Now, India's balancing diplomacy also is coming at a time when economy of Russia is constrained by war, we can say, and dependence of Russia on China has clearly increased. This also is something that New Delhi does not want, because you know that since last couple of we can say basically since independence itself, we can say India and China have not seen eye to eye. They have seen a kind of adversary relationship, and this has always reflected whenever we have seen a border incursions through China by China toward the Indian side. Now, Russia's dependence on China, if it increases, it will create another hurdle for India to balance its overall we can call as diplomatic interest. Now, US Europe also is upset because of India's decision to continuously import oil from Russia and also not clearly condemning Russia's aggression in Ukraine. Delhi, on the other hand, wants peace and want to restore global equilibrium. However, now in the recent time, if you look at the key development that have taken place in past 1 month, we can see there is this global shift that is being observed. First of all, peace negotiation, as we have discussed, is underway. Trump envoys are already in Moscow. At the same time, Ukraine has seemed to be softening its stance. Earlier, the Vladimir Zelensky, president of Ukraine, he always talked about having a just peace to end the war. Now he's talking about dignified peace, and when the term dignified peace is used, it means that he's ready to have some concessions, give some concessions to Russia, either in terms of territorial capture or territorial concessions, or we can say concessions in form of Russia's this inhibition. Russia basically, we can say, concern of Ukraine joining NATO as such. So at the same time, Russia also try to again increase its partnership and restore its normal relations with Europe as well as United States. For example, it has been seeking again its seat back in G8 and more wider acceptance of the Western countries. Europe-US strategic triangle is something that India will have to walk around on a tightrope. Biden has tolerated this to a greater extent, and Trump, on the other hand, has been more hawkish on this particular stance. Europe, on the other hand, is also worried because of the Russia threat, and also US seems to have sidelined European Union countries as far as the Russia-Ukraine ceasefire is concerned. So this also creates a stress among the European countries, and overall they also have started to respond against the India's decision to import Russian oil. Now, in this particular meeting that we will see taking place between President Putin and Prime Minister Modi, India would see an opportunity to bridge this divide and stabilize overall Eurasia as such. Now, in this context, what India must do? So, first of all, it should expand Indo-Russian ties beyond defense that we have discussed, strategic trade, involvement in the tech and innovation, energy and mineral-based cooperation, as well as scientific collaboration is something that can be tapped in a near future. At the same time, the meeting at the highest level between Prime Minister Modi and President Putin provides a second chance after year 2000, when it can be seen as a time to build a modern, balanced partnership, not only dominated by oil and military trade or defense trade. But how exactly it goes on, we have to wait, watch and see. But that's all for this particular video. If you like the video, please hit the like button, share it with fellow aspirants, as a subscribe channel for more such content. Thank you very much.